Well, welcome everybody. This is hi Anna Maria. This is Borderland Talk, and we are with Mo Goldman. He is an immigration attorney from Tucson, Arizona. He is my buddy. And we hang out together when I'm in Tucson, when he's in San Diego. Um, Mo also ran for Congress, but the Democrats didn't choose him because they're losers. And
I mean,
yeah, they made a
again,
bad choice, but we'll
you know what?
support their candidate one
We
way
all
or
make
another,
bad
right?
choices in life.
Yeah, we all make bad choices, but you would have been a great congressman,
I
though.
mean, I made the
Great
choice of
congress.
being an immigration attorney.
There you go.
In retrospect, that was an insane life decision.
Well, I mean, the other thing about Mo that's important to know is that he's the grandson of Holocaust survivors, and he has written a book. Please give the name of the book, Mo.
It's The Last Survivor: Lessons from the Past and the Dying Dream of Freedom.
And in that, I always make him say it because it's such a long title, and sometimes he forgets it as well. But it documents what his grandmother and grandfather went through, and then I also believe too, when your grandfather passed away, she remarried, correct?
Yeah. So,
And
well,
that man was a
he was
survivor as
also a
well.
survivor. Yeah.
Yeah, and
We had
so
a
it's I think
litany
it.
of survivors in my family.
Yeah, I mean, but it's especially interesting because then your mother became an immigration attorney, you and your sister are immigration attorneys. And then to be going through this, and I think what the book does is, through Mo's eyes as an immigration attorney and knowing his history, his Jewish history, the Holocaust history that directly affected his family. I mean, he wouldn't have been here if his grandparents hadn't survived. And then seeing what we're going through today, I recommend picking that up. And you can order that online. But today, Mo, I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to invite you on and talk about what's going on over there in Tucson. You have several handful, maybe less than a handful of clients who are DACA clients, and that's what is that? Deferred action. What
For
does it stand
childhood arrivals.
for? Childhood arrivals.
Yeah.
And so DACA is for children who were brought here very young through no choice of their own. And it was something that the Obama administration did. It's kind of a temporary immigration status, I would say, right? It doesn't give them full protection, as we're finding out now. And what we've seen, because ICE is lazy and they're not really going after the worst of the worst, and they're going after children, and they're going after people who are here legally, and DACA is one of those groups. Um, Last week, I believe it was last week, the Tucson Sentinel, or within the last 2 weeks, came out with a report about you guys had a press conference,
Mhm.
and three of your clients that you're going to talk about, Carla Toledo, Roberto Navarro Bocanegra, and Mindy Valencia Sanchez. And at that press conference, which I was very impressed by, you had Tucson Mayor Regina Romero. So it's good to know that your mayor supports you all. City Council member Lane Santa Cruz, and then also Congressional Representative Adelita Grijalva. And what she stated I thought was pretty interesting. She said that she feels these attacks because obviously ICE is claiming that they're going after the worst of the worst, but they're not. They're going after people who are trying to do it the legal way and using you and paying you to file immigration documents with USCIS, which is the legal way to do it. She stated that she feels that ICE is trying to sow anxiety among immigrants so that they do not apply or they just give up and self-deport and leave.
Mhm.
Um, I agree with her. I think that's correct. And the three clients that you're going to talk about today kind of demonstrate that. When we were
Exactly.
talking, before we went live, we were talking because I said in the article, when I was congratulating you about Carla Toledo, that you won. And you said, well, not really, which I didn't catch that in the article, or it wasn't
Uh,
in the article. So you did manage to get her DACA renewed, so that's good. So she has her legal documents, but now please tell us what is going on with Miss Carla.
So Carla Toledo, just to give a little bit of background, she has DACA. She came to the United States when she was 1 year old. She's now 31 years of age, so she's been in the United States for 30 years. She graduated high school. She went to post secondary, and she's been just a great, great community member. And ICE showed up at her house on May 18th of this year. Um, they didn't have a judicial warrant. They, it appears, showed up thinking they were going after somebody else who did not live in that home. She was living there with her husband. And then when she resisted and said, I want to see a judicial warrant, they wouldn't leave and eventually coerced her out. And she ended up getting arrested and detained by the ICE agents. There were five of them. Thankfully, there was surveillance camera footage that caught a lot of what occurred. Um, Through some public pressure and media attention, uh, we were able to get her released from Eloy Detention Center a few days later. And then ICE put her case in front of the immigration court. They charged her as being deportable, despite the fact that she has DACA protection. They also lied in that. I know this is a big shock to everyone. Their spokesperson lied about her, accusing her of being a criminal, accusing her of entering the country illegally, even though the last time she entered with a permit called advance parole, just to try and, of course, smear her name in the public eye, and to continue to spread the propaganda that all these immigrants are horrible, vile criminals. Um, we ICE agreed. So this is where it gets really weird. In early June, I think it was around June 3rd, ICE agreed to dismiss her deportation case.
Mhm.
Um, and then a day later, after the judge ordered dismissal, they recharged her with a new deportation proceeding with her husband. And their reasoning behind it was, we'd rather you guys both be deported as a couple, as a family unit.
Well, how kind of you.
Yeah, very generous.
Bullshit.
And so, uh, thankfully, Carla is she epitomizes courage. She has been very outspoken in spite of the fact that she's in this perilous position.
Mhm.
She's done media appearances. She goes out. She supports the community. She has become a rock and a pillar to a lot of the other people who are facing removal, who have very similar backgrounds. So I am so grateful in a weird way that I got to meet her through this situation.
Yeah.
And the weird kind of juxtaposition that you and I were talking about is that while her deportation case, which is still ongoing in the immigration court, is going on, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service, USCIS, approved her DACA extension for another 2 years.
Well, what's the basis of the deportation? Don't they have to have a this is the cause for
Yeah.
us to bring this
So
charge?
the Department of Homeland Security does not. So when Obama introduced DACA, the idea behind DACA was that the government would use their prosecutorial discretion in a much broader way than just on case. I mean, every case is evaluated separately, but
Mhm.
it gave a large swath of individuals, if they met certain requirements, including being here since June 15th, 2007, had to be present in the US on the date that the program was announced, which was June 15th, 2012. They have to undergo a vetting process. They put
Have
it
to
all
jump
out
through a
there.
lot of hurdles to even get
Yeah.
that DACA, right?
And they're exposing their undocumented status. So there was always going to be a risk that this could end up backfiring,
Yeah.
and people knew that. But the allure of it is most of these folks, if not all of them, well, most of them, were never able to have a legal work authorization card or a social security number or any sort of semblance of a life so that they could move forward um, with something, so they're not just sitting on their asses all the time, not being able to function in our society.
Yeah.
And it's better for our economy. It's better for our streets, just having people out there who are licensed drivers, who are insured. There are economic and societal benefits to it. So the problem with DACA, however, is that it is not a permanent legal status. And so that's where we get this like real bizarre scenario arise where you have people who have DACA protection, which is supposed to protect them from being deported. And now ICE is saying, well, we can still deport them. It makes no sense.
Do you think it eventually, I mean, because so knowing the culture of the agencies and stuff, it feels like to me, and I see this with the Biden CBP1 app that was used to bring in people legally during his administration. Do you feel it's that same kind of thing where they're like, well, we just don't recognize it. We don't like it.
Yeah,
So
it's exactly what it
in our
is.
mind,
It's
it's not
now,
legal.
yeah, but
That's what
it's
our
just a
argument is.
bizarre scenario when you're getting approved on DACAs. And then on the flip side, they're trying to deport these people. It's like mixed messages.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'd rather have mixed messages than them saying no, you're not going to get DACA. But I was shocked when the DACA got approved. In fact, I did not want it to come out in the media because I was worried that some nefarious minded individual suddenly makes a call and says, "Okay, let's get rid of her DACA now," and
Yeah.
try to revoke it. That could always happen. But we knew that the media was aware that her DACA was going to expire July 21st. And so then they were going to start, asking around. And sure enough, on July 21st, both Carla and I started getting contacted. Hey, what's going on with your DACA? And at that
Mhm.
point, it had already been a few weeks since her DACA renewal came through. And so we had to you know, tell people what happened. And so, I don't know, the whole thing is just freaking bizarre. I mean, none of it makes any sense, and these are the individuals who are the easiest targets of this administration. Them, people with temporary protected status, people with pending asylum claims, like
Unaccompanied children.
unaccompanied children, they're just going after anybody that they can, get their hands on, and I mean, one of the reasons and a big reason why is, and we all know this, there's economic gain to private prisons. And it justifies their investment of billions of dollars in this, institution. And I wrote about this earlier today that on Monday I was in the Eloy Detention Center and I witnessed something that really triggered me, where after court, when you walk into Eloy, there's this narrow corridor and it's surrounded by, on both sides, visitation areas.
Mhm.
And when you walk through there, it's all just windows and you can see the faces, the blank faces of people whose souls have been sucked out of them because of what our government's doing. And they'll stare at you and you just, you know, it's disheartening. But when I was coming back from court, these two women were mopping the floor in their prison garb. And there was a young man who looked like he could be their son who was monitoring them, working for Core Civic, the organization that owns and runs Eloy Detention Center. And that they had mopped the floor, and then I felt really weird stepping over into the mopped up area that they had, just finished doing. I felt bad. But then it occurred to me, this is nothing different than the concentration camps that my ancestors had to work in the conditions, while maybe, not exactly the same, are very similar in a sense. And the fact that they have these undocumented people, probably undocumented, doing labor, which they
Sure.
consider voluntary labor, so that they can pay them $1 per day to do, is a fucking. I'm sorry. It's a
Even if
slap
they
in the
do pay
face.
them, I mean, most of
Eh,
them are saying that they don't get
Yeah,
paid,
but
and now we're finding out that the government is charging them for their custody, so when they get back in their country, now they wanna send these bounty
yeah,
hunters after them to get money from them for that, which I don't even
exactly.
know how that's supposed to work, but
But
whatever.
what about the fact that all right, so Core Civic and Geo Group, I think, combined $1.4 billion in revenue in the spring of this year.
Yep, in 1
Okay,
quarter.
1.4. And I think CEO of Core Civic, Mr. Swindle, which is quite the name, Mr. Swindle said that it means it's the equivalent of about $300,000 per bed that
Huh.
they profit off. That's what he said on their call with their investors. Now, here's a question. If we were so concerned about Americans having jobs, why are they not hiring Americans to clean their facilities at a living wage then?
Because then they wouldn't have that much profit. That's the
It's
point,
slave labor.
slave
I mean,
labor.
it's fucked
It
up.
is a
So
form of slave
I
labor.
I watched that and I looked at these two women and just, I mean, what do you do? You just, it's so disheartening, and I left every time I go into that place and walk out, I feel like a piece of my own soul has been, carved out of me, it's terrible.
It's gotta be
Um,
really hard as an attorney too, because I'm sure they recognize you as an attorney, do they not? And they're like, "There's an attorney here," you know? But
yeah. And
you can't take on every case, obviously,
no, and
so
that's a
yeah,
problem. Like there's only a handful of lawyers doing this work. There's mental health issues that come with taking these cases on, where lawyers burn out really quick because of
yeah,
it. I think the ones that burn out faster are the ones who care more. Obviously,
yeah,
they don't see it just as like a dollar sign or some sort of profit, gain. Obviously, you have to run an office and pay bills and so on, but you know when
take
you
time
look at
off.
the humanity and dealing with this stuff, terrible. So,
So what's next for her? She has a
so for
hearing?
Carla, they scheduled a hearing next year for her and her husband. I filed a motion to terminate, based off of the fact that she has DACA. Um, ICE would not agree to join me in that motion to terminate, which it's a big shocker there. Um, and we'll see. All we
Okay.
could do is fight these cases as best we can.
So she's
Um,
kinda living in limbo, waiting
she's in
to
limbo.
see what's gonna God, that's like waiting to find out like you have to go take a medical test and
I
you're
know.
you're like, "Oh," you know?
So the good news about Carla is she doesn't sulk, although I haven't seen her, sulking at all. She got right back out there and started helping other dreamers and DACA recipients. And so that, brings a little full circle to what happened last week with this press conference. Um, before I knew of Carla, who I met in May, I had a client named Roberto Navarro Bocanegra. And Roberto has, I mean, you want to talk about a crushing story. He came to the United States when he was 18 months old, brought here by his family, grew up in Tucson, Arizona, and had a just real tight knit, loving family. But his sister, Patricia, when he was 13 years old, was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia.
Mm.
And she was only 9 years old at the time, in 2015. And there was a news story in the local media that profiled her for a nonprofit organization called Bald Beauties that helped women or young women who are dealing with losing their hair
Yeah.
because of chemotherapy. Roberto was her bone marrow donor, um, and sadly, she passed away. And when that happened, during all this, the family was so focused on her situation that he never applied for DACA, never got around to doing so.
Yeah.
And then in 2017, Jeff Sessions, that September, froze DACA, and then it remained frozen. And even up to today, he's not been able to get DACA, although it probably, who knows if it would even give him the protection he needs. But he did try to apply again, back in, I think it was like 2021. Now, here's where it gets very interesting. He graduated from high school, from Palo Verde High School in Tucson, went to Pima Community College, excelled in mechanical engineering, and then got a scholarship through the Dream.us, which is a pretty lofty, difficult scholarship to get. They only give it to a handful of dreamers. And he's been at the University of Arizona studying mechanical engineering with a scholarship, privately funded. And and so in 2024, I got contacted by some people at the university who were supporting. They have a office there, and they help immigrants and other students in these types of situations. And they asked me if I could consult with him. And I met
Mm.
with this guy Roberto, and I was like, oh, I was smitten with him. Like he had the smile that could light up a room. And I said to him, all right, man, what are we going to do with you? Well, it turns out he was married. He married his girlfriend, who's a US citizen. So we filed a petition. Okay. And when people say do it the right way, follow the law, one of the problems that gets lost in that rhetoric is that even when you try to do it the right way, the US government screws you. And so the problem he had was because he was brought here without a visa when he was a child, he's not eligible to do adjustment of status to get a green card in the United States. He would have to process through a consulate outside the US. But if he did go, he'd face a 10-year reentry bar thanks to
Boy,
the
yeah.
1996 immigration law. So it's a
That's
catch
tricky,
22.
tricky, huh?
So the only way to get through the process the right way is you have to do a petition called an I-130 petition through your spouse. First, that has to be approved. Then you have to do what's called an I-601A waiver and get that approved. It's a hardship waiver to show hardship to your spouse, your U.S. citizen spouse in this case. And you can also show hardship to your parents if they're citizens or have a green card. So in his case, we had to do the I-130 petition first. That's going to take a year to 2 years, potentially. All the while, he's here without status, but he can't
Wow.
leave the country. So he's trapped. And we filed it in January of 2025. 13 months later, in February of this year, we got a denial, an outright denial from the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service. And it's on one of the most ridiculous reasons. When the petition was filed, it was done electronically. And
Okay.
and mind you, like, this is a situation where, I was working on a pro bono capacity. I don't do that for everybody, but in certain cases, obviously, you got to do pro bono work. It's important. And when we did the petition, and it's not that hard to do these petitions, to be honest. Okay. The problem is if you do it electronically, in one of the fields, his wife was supposed to sign it, and he accidentally put his name into the field, and
Uh-huh.
then it comes back to us, but we don't see who signed it. So we submitted it. They denied it because the wrong person signed it. They they
Weren't
denied
they
the
also in
petition.
the first Trump administration, they were doing ridiculous things like if you didn't fill out every yeah, I mean, just
Put
yeah,
NA in every field. So yeah,
yeah,
they're looking for any reason to deny it. So I then turn around. I had a fund of money to pay the filing fee anew. So we refile it. We refile it in February. I feel terrible about this whole situation. This is just totally messed up.
right.
2 months later, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, the service center that took his petition, sent it to court and put him in deportation proceedings. So they
God,
took a legal petition and betrayed his trust
betrayed
and
his trust,
betrayed the
yeah,
trust of anybody, in my opinion, that wants to file a legal petition now.
right.
I mean, so now he's in deportation proceedings because of that. This scholar, this person who, has done nothing to warrant being put in this position. And so now we're fighting his deportation.
I have not a lot of, I have a few friends who are DACA or they have workers permits or whatever, green cards, whatever their situation is. They're legal. They're here legally and they're up for renewal and they're like, we don't know what to do because they know that USCIS has been turned into a law enforcement agency. They know that they are
Yeah.
sending the documents that people are paying or you're doing it pro bono from attorneys and stuff, and people need to remember that most immigrants can't afford immigration attorneys, so they're doing this on their own, and they're wondering, like, are they gonna use this against me? I have heard some of the people have gotten their renewals, but then they also always just live with the thought of, well, now they really know where I am because I just gave them my most
Yeah.
current address, and and so it's like Representative Grijalva said, is they're trying to create anxiety within the legal community.
Mhm.
I find it so interesting too because, like, a couple of years ago in the Biden administration, on Facebook, the Border Patrol union was, I don't know, balking about some stupid shit, and I said, "You know what? They're not just gonna go after the undocumented, they are gonna go after the legal immigrants. You watch, they're gonna do it." And I remember they wouldn't say me by name, but they were like, "This ex-agent, she was an agent a long time ago, doesn't know what she's talking about. We would never go after legal immigrants." Well, I'm still waiting on
There you
that
go.
apology. But
Yeah.
but, and that's exactly what they have planned to do because
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is that of those who are undocumented, they commit far less crimes than border patrol agents as a population percentage-wise. So I already knew that they were gonna have to do this, and I knew that obviously the culture of the agencies. So, where is Roberto right now?
Well, thankfully, he's not detained.
Good.
And thankfully, Carla and others have reached out. There's an organization called Common Defense that is comprised of veterans and people in the military who want to save our democracy. And
Mhm.
they put on that press conference last week in Tucson for him, and Mindy and Carla also spoke. I honestly, I marvel at the courage of these people
Yeah.
because if they don't speak up, and people like us or people who are listening right now, and watching this, we need to collectively be speaking out. This what's happening to people is just it's horrible. It's something that should not be occurring on our watch. And I don't want to look back when I'm, in my final days on this earth and say that I didn't speak up and step out and do something for this society, for the marginalized, for all these individuals, because it's just going to continue to go down this path unless we start to, change the hearts and minds of the people out there, especially that next generation that TPUSA is trying to indoctrinate. And so how do you indoctrinate them to what would be a better way and a more selfless way of thinking? To share stories like Roberto's and to have people like Roberto speak out.
Right. Right.
So he's around, he's going, still doing his thing.
What's the
And
status of his case? So they're still trying to
yeah,
deport him, correct?
yeah,
And you're still trying to get him status through DACA. Is that correct?
yeah. His DACA is probably just going to sit, but we have a case. We're going to fight it through what's called cancellation of removal.
Okay.
Again, we're going to have to show hardship to his wife. It's not easy to win those cases. Cancellation of removal. The hardship standard is exceptional and extremely unusual hardship.
Mm.
Exceptional and extremely unusual hardship, which is just extraordinarily high standard. What what doesn't get discussed enough is the damage that the 1996 Immigration Act had on our system, and how it's basically forced people to stay here and entrap them so that they can't, like I said, leave. Like Roberto, like you can't just say, get out of here and go process at the consulate. If he does, he's going to face a 10-year reentry ban
Right.
thanks to that law. But if he gets stuck in removal proceedings, he's fighting a case, with a standard that is completely outrageous.
What does
And
that mean in real life, though? Does that mean his wife has to have, like, cancer or something?
medical issues usually. Yeah, usually it's
Ugh.
like, it's just fucked up because like I've had so many people come to me over the years, and one of the first questions I'll ask them, are your children healthy? Is your wife healthy? And then when they say, yeah, I'm healthy, everyone's healthy, I'll be like,
You're sad.
fuck. Like
Normally,
that's
you'd be like, "Great," but this time you're
yeah,
like,
that's a it's a wonderful thing, but it's not good for your case.
Mm.
So, the more, okay your family situation, um, you know, the worse off you are going to be in immigration court. It's all
Yeah.
backwards.
Yeah.
You got to prove that you have a horrible situation, and even then you lose these cases. Like,
Right.
I mean, I had this woman who had both parents had dementia. She's the only one who cared for them. Everyone else in the family had their own lives, had families that they had to care for. The judge admonished the rest of the family and said they all should carry their own weight, and ordered the woman deported, despite the fact that the mom couldn't sleep without this woman with her in bed.
Are these new judges? Like, no,
This was in 2019, and this guy was a judge for a long time. He's
for a long
passed now,
time.
but
Well, good.
and actually I wrote about that situation in the book. I
Oh,
actually
okay.
I took excerpts from the transcript where he admonished the sisters, and I was like, "What sort of fucking cretin are you, dude? Like seriously." Like sometimes you sit in court and you're like, "What did we actually grow up in the same society? Like what rock did you come out from?"
You wonder sometimes if they've been up there for so long or something that maybe they just get so full of themselves, or
Yeah.
I don't know,
I
they're
mean,
so.
so then there's Mindy, and Mindy's the other DACA. She has DACA. It's good through January of next year. And
So what's the
She
problem?
Well, here's the problem. Before DACA existed, and again, the the society around us, the MAGA society that just has this very one-dimensional viewpoint of deport them all, doesn't consider what's happening until it might impact them. And even then, sometimes they don't give a shit. But we saw that guy in Houston who owns some rich muckety muck Republican who owns all these billboards. I don't know if you saw his story.
I didn't see that.
75-year-old guy. I think his name is Jonathan Gannon. Um, with a woman who's Venezuelan, who's his fiance, 30 years younger than him, 45.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he's on CBS News going, "Hey, man, I didn't vote for this." And I'm like, "No, you did. You just didn't think it would happen to your person." Okay.
Yeah.
So let me tell you about Mindy. Mindy was in 2009, she was 18 or so. Yeah, she was around 18 years old. She had been here since she was, I think, 8. Again, brought over by family, didn't choose to come here, was going to high school. And then she got pulled over, traffic stop, very
Ugh.
basic, but they turned her over to ICE. She got put in deportation proceedings. Thankfully, in 2000, I think it was also 2009, the judge did what's called administrative closure, where they closed her deportation case.
Right.
And this predated DACA. Um, and she got kind of lucky there because it was during the first 2 years of Obama's first term where he was the deporter in chief. Well, I
Mm,
think we can change and call the current guy the deporter in chief now. But
yeah.
so in 2011, DACA came around. She was able to get DACA, but she's had DACA now 14 years, and in the last year, ICE reinstated her deportation case, just totally out of the blue because they need to boost the numbers.
How do you think that they found her? Are they just looking through DACA files then? Because
They're
there's
going
nothing to.
down the list of all the cases. They're they just filed a recalendared case that I've had closed for like over a decade. They're trying to get their hands on anybody they can because they are not able to fulfill Trump's goal of getting rid of all these awful criminals. So now where do you find these people? You find them by making them
Ma-
undocumented.
the Haitians, yeah. Yeah.
The Haitians, the Syrians, and now all of a sudden again, all these businesses are like, wait a minute, we didn't vote for this. We voted for you to get rid. Well, no, half your staff is now losing their employment authorization. So, maybe it's time to start voting a different way.
Yeah. So she's legal until January of 2027, and then they just open it up. So the basis of opening this up then is to say that she never entered legally and therefore she's
Um,
deportable? Is that the excuse?
I mean, it's
So it's
it's a
back to we don't
combination.
identify DACA as being a legal
Yeah,
document.
basically they're saying that she's not in legal status.
God damn. So I know that your representative over there, his name is Siskamani, and I'm going to put on my former Border Patrol hat and go, where does that name come from? Is he not
Italy.
an immigrant? Is he not an immigrant?
Well, no, I think he had family that came from Italy, but he is an immigrant from Mexico.
Oh, oh. And so I'm sure he's helping you, right? He's there with your clients, right?
No, he
Because
pulled the
he's a
ladder.
Republican,
Yeah,
right?
he pulled the
He's
ladder
like
away
Senator
from the
Bernie
law.
Moreno, right, out of Ohio.
Um,
Shitbag.
so you mentioned, I think that I did run a very short, fleeting moment for Congress. I remember when I told you, you were like, "Oh, great." You were like, "What are you doing, Mo?"
I was going to lose
But
my mo. It was
yeah,
all. It was all for me.
yeah.
Okay.
But I woke up one day and I was like, I can't. How how can an immigration attorney with my background sit back and let this guy who is an immigrant who did it the so-called right way and has fulfilled the American dream, which, mind you, all happened when he was a minor kid through his parents. So he didn't do anything to
Right.
get. I mean, it's nothing different than having your parent have a child here for the most part. Like, wasn't like he did anything spectacular like Melania did to be able to get her with her Einstein visa. But yeah, I woke up one day and I said to my wife, I said, I'm gonna run for Congress. And all I could think of was the movie Brewster's Millions.
I've seen it.
You ever seen that movie with
Mm-mm.
Richard Pryor? You should see that.
Oh,
Um,
yes, I have.
yeah,
Yes, I
I,
have.
I felt like I was going to have like a Richard Pryor sort of campaign where it was just going to be totally crazy, and it was for a while. But also, the other guy I thought of was the guy who was working in the diner in Back to the Future, who thought, "Oh, mayor." Like I could be a congressperson,
Yeah.
and go to DC because we need an immigration lawyer to fix this fucking mess. But instead, right now, we're stuck with Juan Ciscomani, who I think is just doing nothing. Like Carla Toledo and I went to his office to try to talk to people there. They wouldn't let us in. It was the funniest thing. We showed up and you have to push like a air button, those little air phone things.
Yeah.
And the like young intern or whoever was working there was like, you guys need to leave a note in the in the little mailbox outside. We're like, yeah, but we're constituents. We want to come inside and talk to you guys about the plight of Carla and all these other dreamers. They were like, nope, you have to make an appointment. And I was like, this is the dumbest shit ever. Like, come on, you are a representative for my congressional district. I should be able to walk into this office that my taxpayer dollars are paying you for.
Yeah. Yeah, so he still hasn't said anything to you, right? He hasn't stuck his
No, no.
nothing?
I've tagged him on. They don't like me over at that office very much.
Has he had
um,
anything to say about any of this or anything to say on
no,
immigration,
the
what his thoughts
funny
are?
so the reason we showed up at his office was we had this sign. I, if you give me 1 second, I'll be right back. I gotta show you this sign, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
Hold on.
I saw, on the feed here, one of you guys was asking if Mo works for an organization. Mo has ties to all sorts of organizations in the University of Arizona, but he is a, private attorney in private practice, so there
Is
you
this
go.
backwards or can you read it?
No, we can read it. Well, I think we
Okay.
can. The internet is
It's backwards on
forever.
my side. Yeah. So this was a tweet that Ciscomani put out in, I think it was like December 2004, saying that he would support DACA recipients.
Yeah, DACA recipients should be able to stay in the country. That's what it
Yeah.
says.
So Carla made a bunch of signs. And there was a protest in front of his office. So we wanted to deliver him this sign to remind him that he tweeted this out because the internet is forever, even if you delete it. And so so the funny thing was and this was all caught on video. The lady was like, well, she's like, you have to write a note. And I said, but we have a sign. Like, we can't stick the sign into the mailbox. And she goes, well, you can leave it at the front door. And I was like, well, all right. So then we went downstairs. It's a two-story building, but you can see his office from right like in the front.
Mhm.
And it was the funniest fucking thing. Um, like as soon as the coast was clear and we were out of there, the door opened up and all I envisioned was like a mouse. Like there was a little piece of cheese in front of the hole, and the mouse came out, grabbed the cheese, and ran back in. They grabbed it and they went back into the office really quick.
Wow, that is so weak. I thought Republicans were all, like, strong and everything and fierce and all
Nah,
that,
they're
but
afraid.
no,
They're afraid of a 31-year-old DACA recipient who wears pink everywhere.
they should be. Um,
Um, so
I
anyways, yeah, it's fucked up, dude.
let's talk about the Haitians real quick. I think we're gonna see more of that with other groups. I think did Cameroonians also get TPS during the Biden administration? So I know the Cameroonians
They
were going through civil war.
did. Yeah,
So I'm
Cameroon
worried
got
about them too,
TPS.
because Cameroonians, typically black people, and it seems like they're targeting black people. I think
Yeah.
did you see the video of the came out a few days ago of the Haitian man after they put an ankle bracelet on him and he collapsed? I think
Mm-mm.
what a lot of I would imagine a lot of the people here know, but for others who maybe don't, is Haiti has a long history with slavery, and they were the one group that was able to repel the French and get them out of their country, and they have a very proud. They know their history and everything, and I think this is especially traumatic for them. But mo people are asking me like, why would they be putting the GPS on them? I think it's for me, it's kind of reminiscent of putting. It's a digital ghetto is what it
Mhm.
feels like to me, like putting the
Yeah,
Jews in the Holocaust ghettos. So then they can track them down if they so much as cut it off. Those things are huge. They're a pain in the
they're
ass. They have to
cumbersome,
sit
yeah.
on the floor and recharge it. And if you don't recharge it or you get outside of where you're supposed to be, man, they're on you like crazy. So what's your impression of that if I say it's like a digitalized ghetto? Is that appropriate? Is
It's
that
yeah, I'd say it is. I mean, it's definitely, if you think about ghettos and how people were entrapped in that, you know, in that little world that they were
mhm.
in, um,
We're gonna
you
keep you
know,
here till we figure out how we get rid of you is kinda what they're saying, right?
basically, yeah, and I remember my grandma would talk about living in the ghetto all the time and how hard it was and, you couldn't leave and it was you felt trapped. I mean, this is just entrapping you in a different sort of way.
Yeah.
And again, look at who's making money off of those. It's like, I think the Geo Group, the same sort of organizations that are involved with private prison detention. And then yesterday we find out they're all going to get gloves that will electrocute you on top of it.
I know,
And
I
it's,
just what the
but
hell?
that's what we're gonna spend $20 million on gloves to electrocute people. And somebody's gonna get electrocuted, have a heart attack, and die, or more people. I mean, it's
And
just,
they'll say, "Well, he had a pre-existing condition, it's not our
yeah,
fault." We're
yeah.
right?
And so it is, I think somebody just mentioned it's capitalism run amok, where,
Yeah.
but all we can do is try to keep profiting off of these people in different messed up ways. Now, the thing that's really horrible is, I mean, as if it couldn't get any worse. I have clients that would much rather be wearing a GPS monitor on their ankle than sitting in detention. And what they're doing right now is they're denying, I mean, I can't tell you the numbers, but a mass majority of people in front of these immigration judges in detention right now, from what I'm hearing from my colleagues, and what I've seen firsthand, they're finding them all to be flight risks. No
Mhm.
matter
That's what I'm
whether
hearing
they
too.
have ties to their community, no
Mhm.
matter how long they've been in the country for, they're like, "You're not gonna show up in immigration court," which we know statistically speaking, people do show up in immigration court,
If they
you
think they
know
can get a fair hearing, yeah.
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 Or they know that there's a benefit. I have a guy right now who's in detention who's been here since he was 7 years old, and the only thing he did wrong was he committed misrepresentation on one form. Otherwise, he's lived his whole life here. He went to high school. He's basically a dreamer, and we were trying to get his green card. USCIS denied the green card, denied the waiver that we filed, and then ICE showed up at his house 3 weeks later and arrested him.
Isn't this because of the Laken Riley Act that said that even if they're suspected of anything, not that they had to have a conviction, not that they had to
Mhm.
have a charge, just a feeling from the immigration agent that they're not gonna show up or that they might have committed a crime and therefore they can be held in detention, and a lot of Democrats voted for that act, did they not?
Yeah, they did, and, I mean, this specific scenario that I mentioned is not Lake and Riley
Okay,
related, but it's all interrelated, you know,
right.
and at the end of the day, this all ties back to, I mean, you can go as far back as we go in the history of the United States, but what we're seeing right now, as far as, like, a more, like, contemporary, ideology, this this ties all into the attrition through enforcement mentality, that was brought on by the likes of, um, what's his name? The Secretary of State from Kansas,
Chris Kobach.
Kobach and FAIR and all these organizations that said,
Yeah.
"You know what? Let's just make it so difficult and so restrictive that everyone just gives up and gets out."
It's funny because one of their biggest arguments, and I wanna do something about this, one of the biggest arguments of those groups was that how much money undocumented people cost American taxpayers and stuff, which is not true. They contribute far more than they cost us. But
Mm.
what do people think that all this is costing us right now? I mean, we're going 40 trillion in debt, and it's all going to ICE, or not all, but a fair amount is going to ICE, CBP, and Border Patrol. The last thing I wanna get you on, as we get to the top of the hour is the airports. You were the first one to put out and ask me to put it out that, "Oh, they're in the airports." And they're obviously, I mean, DHS always has had access since after 9/11. They set up a system to have access to who's on the planes and stuff, and they're using that information to determine whether or not they think that you're a citizen, and then lying in wait at the airports for you. Um,
Yeah.
I advise I'm not an attorney, but I advise people if you don't have to be flying, if you think your status is even remotely questionable, if you were brought here as a baby, 2-month-old baby, and you have DACA, do not get on a flight. What's your advice? What's your thoughts on this, Mel?
Yeah, avoid the airports.
Yeah.
Um, because, going back the last couple, at least the last month, we saw a huge increase in people getting arrested and detained at airports and taken in. I mean, the first time it came across my desk, in the last, several months was in February, where a guy was flying from New York to Phoenix, and when he got to Sky Harbor, and mind you, he had protection under the Convention Against Torture from an immigration judge. ICE was waiting for him and arrested and took him to Florence, and then held him, and a habeas was filed. And the story, but if we had another hour, I'd tell you all the story, but that'll be for another day. How he wound up getting deported. I think I talked to you about it, to an African country that,
Yeah.
he has no connection to.
We should talk about that next time because I do want
Yeah,
to have you on more frequently
but
to
I'm just like, I had a guy yesterday. He was like, "Yeah, I want to go to Disneyland from New York," and I'm like,
nope.
I'm like, "No, you're not going to Disneyland. I'm sorry, bro. Like, that's, first of all, don't go to Disneyland because you're gonna spend a lot of money, and you'll regret it. It's like going to Vegas." Um, um,
Except
but
worse because there's
also,
children.
TSA is gonna, to figure your situation out, and you're gonna end up not in Disneyland, but you're gonna end up at Delaney Hall in New Jersey.
But did you see that one story of a US citizen who made it through TSA, made it through all
Mhm.
the checks, made it through the gate, and was walking down the thing to get onto the plane, and all of a sudden, ICE agents came out of nowhere and tackled him and threw him against the wall and put him in handcuffs, and he was a United States citizen. So that's kinda like I don't know how that happened, and it made me wonder if are they now just eyeballing people? But that would be then they would have to be doing that to everybody, so I'm not sure why.
I don't know.
It's kind of like this AI cameras and flock cameras. As I saw the other day,
Mhm.
they stopped somebody and said, "Oh, your car is stolen," and they're like, "No, it's not stolen," and they get handcuffed and they have to deal with an hour of them going back and forth before they realize that the flock camera misread one of the letters on the plate, and then they apologize to him, of course, and everything, and this and that. But meanwhile, you miss your flight and you miss whatever you were going to, and you've gone through this traumatic experience with your children being in the car and all this other stuff. So I don't know how that happened, but I imagine it's gonna get much worse in the airports. It's gonna get, much worse. We're seeing that they're shutting down all the unaccompanied, legal counsel and sending out all the
Yeah.
unaccompanied kids to Texas and, are giving, it all to this one law firm who doesn't know anything.
That law firm has, at least I just read,
Mm.
uh, turned down the
Oh, they did?
contract.
Okay,
I
good,
mean,
good.
public pressure was not good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just read that through a reliable source
Good.
that they did not take the contract because, frankly, that money should be going to one of those nonprofits, that like Acacia or
Okay,
Raices or
yeah.
Florence Project or one of those projects that know what they're doing, not a small law firm in Texas that has no footprint on helping undocumented unaccompanied children. But then I just saw that there's a contract being given to the organization that Tim Ballard founded. Do you
Who's
know who
Tim
he is?
Ballard? Mm-mm.
He was the guy that they made that film about. F I can't somebody will type it in the, chat,
Anybody in
but
the chat know?
Tim
Tim
Ballard,
Ballard.
they made that movie and they tried to make it go viral about, human child trafficking, and it was, like, big amongst the MAGA crowd. They kept saying, "Go watch
Uh,
this film."
uh,
And then he got, like, some allegations brought up against him. It was yeah,
Sex
and so
predator.
yeah, but apparently his organization just got a huge contract from the Trump administration to work on, like, Sound of Fury, I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
Um, I just remember because they kept saying that all these theaters were sold out, and then people would go to the theaters and no one was in there watching them. So, like, people were buying the tickets.
Buy the
Like, this is what
tickets.
I
Yeah.
I thought this is what Melania was gonna be like. So
Yeah.
I infiltrated Melania. I went to the film,
Yeah.
and when I walked in, it was packed.
Really?
There was not a seat open, and I was like, "What the hell?" Like, I thought I was gonna walk in, it was gonna be sold out, and there would be, like, 2 people in it.
Yeah.
No, like, all the
Wow.
cultists were in there. It was crazy.
I was hoping maybe they were all sitting there with tomatoes quietly.
And by the way, I did not pay for the Melania movie. I
Okay,
paid
that's
for a
good.
different film and snuck in.
It's like the
And
juvenile
by
delinquent you are.
Oh, Sound of Freedom, that's it. Yeah,
Sound of
sorry, I don't
freedom.
wanna promote this film. But anyways, I went in, I felt like it was my civic duty to go watch Melania and report back. I lasted 30 minutes. I could not it was honestly, I tried to give it a chance. It was not good. I mean, and I'm saying that from a completely biased perspective, but shit, it was bad, dude. Don't save yourself. Don't watch Melania.
Yeah. All right. Well, you're just gonna stay in the fight and keep working at it, huh, Mo?
Hey, it's the only way I can stay in the fight is through mental health breaks, like going to see really horrible movies like Melania.
Yeah, well, I'll be over in
And
Tucson in a couple of weeks and we'll take some breaks together. So, you
we'll
know.
find a movie. Definitely, something fun to do.
We always find fun stuff to do when we're over there. Are you getting harassed
No,
because you're an
actually,
immigration attorney? Like, is anything happening to you in the immigration
nobody
courts, or
I
it's
I
still
want
just normal
everyone. I want to
business?
be Can somebody fucking harass me, please? I mean, I drive a car where my license plate says I am Mo.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need flock cameras.
Yeah.
They'll know where I
Everybody
am.
knows Mo. Everybody in Tucson knows Mo.
My
So,
wife doesn't like that very much, but
yeah,
hey.
I know. You do your own thing.
Anyways,
I
I
appreciate everything
appreciate
that
you.
you're doing and coming on and informing everybody and stuff. Just because I mean, we see so many reports and stuff, and I think it's really important to have an attorney come and say, "This is what's going on, and this is what it's like." Because we only hear about well, the politicians only wanna talk about the kids because that's a real, story that people wanna listen to. But just ordinary everyday people, not they don't have to be doctors and lawyers, but although those things matter too, but just ordinary everyday people who have done the the immigration system tried to do it the right way, followed the rules that they were given, and are now simply being targeted because ICE is lazy and they don't really wanna go out and get criminals because 'cause they're scared. And and so, because I mean, I personally think we should all put them on a plane and send them all to Iran to fight Donald Trump's war since they love him so much. Go fight for your country over there because 'cause we're fine over here. We like our immigrants and we wanna protect our neighbors and stuff, but
Yeah.
you're really fighting the fight, and it's gotta be really hard on you emotionally to, being with your background and everything and your family history and stuff. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Very.
It's an interesting life.
Yeah.
And now I have all these subscribers on Substack. I might have to start using it.
You'll have to put your face up there and you should start using it
I
actually.
know.
Why? See,
But
like, this isn't
there's
bad.
so many social media platforms. I'm like,
I
how many
know.
more can I do? But I'll do Substack. What the hell? Yeah.
I know. And Substack kind of like I piss and moan about it. I was pissing and moaning about it like this week because it just I don't like the investments of it, but somebody pointed out, like, all the platforms have investments from these billionaires that are,
Yeah.
and so we just
You
gotta
can't
use
avoid
it
it.
and
I know.
do what we can to get the
I
word out
mean,
there until they take it away from us.
I met you on Elon's X
That's
when it was
true.
Twitter,
You
before he
should
turned it to X.
tell people real quick how you met me.
I slipped into her DM. Or is it slip? No, slid, not slipped.
Slid.
I slipped. No, I saw you were coming to Tucson and you were going to speak at a church.
Mhm.
And I, like a stalker, I sent you a message and said, "Hey, before you go to that church, let me take you to the most MAGA bar in Tucson and get you a beer there so I could trigger you because we'll be surrounded by Border Patrol agents."
Okay, the truth is, he said, "I'm gonna take you out to a drink for a drink," and he did not say it was a MAGA cop bar. And I walked in and I go, "Is this a cop bar?" Because I
It
looked
was a
around and I
cop
went,
bar. Yeah.
"It looks like a cop bar. Did you just invite me to a cop bar?" So,
Yeah, I did. So that's how we met, and
and
the
that's
rest
how
is
we met.
history.
Yeah, and we've been buddies ever since. So, yeah. All right, Mo, Imma let
All
you go.
right.
I know you got other things to do. I appreciate you. I love you. Tell your family I said hello, and I'll see
All
you in a
right.
couple weeks.
See you guys. Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.